Welcome everyone in the talk tonight with the brother Yusuf Chambers. He will talk tonight, inshallah, about the title, Is Life Just a Game? And may Allah give the brother Yusuf the ability to give us the beautiful points for Muslim and non-Muslim. And we would like to share his experience for 20 years or more that he became a Muslim. Move the mic to the brother Yusuf Chambers.
Our last minute rush has seemingly ended. Alhamdulillah, thank God for that. Well, just as they say that, no, those people tell them. Good. Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalat wassalamu ala Rasulillah. We start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all humans, the creator of everything, in fact, and we ask Allah to bestow peace and blessings upon his final messenger, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Peace and blessings be upon him. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What does it mean? Well, that's a good question. May the peace, the mercy and the blessings of Almighty God be upon the entire gathering. Today, the title of the talk is Life Just a Game? Is life just a game? So, there's many ways to talk about this topic, but generally speaking, we as human beings need to be quite serious about what we're doing here. We can't just take it flippantly like a game. Like, it's like my son when he's playing football, he doesn't go to do the training. I keep telling him, look, if you do the training, every time you get in front of the goal, you're going to score the goal. You're more likely to score the goal, right? So you need to do training. If you're going to play games a lot, then you need to do lots of training for them. So I said that's why you get in, you feel a bit nervous, a bit under pressure, and then you kick the ball over the goal instead of in it. So games are kind of quite a good analogy to compare our situation that we're currently in as human beings, as shared family, a wonderfully diverse, interesting family, vast family of different languages, of different faces, of different skin colors, of different textures, of different approaches, of different, gender, only two. That's what makes it so wonderful. You see? That we have been made into different tribes and nations and different qualities in order that we will be able to kind of get to know one another. For example, if we were all blonde-haired, blue-eyed individuals, very pale, a bit like from where I come from Ireland, and everyone was like that, would it be very interesting? Right? We would have much less to talk about, right? Because if you look at the situation of the condition of man today, particularly when it comes to Islam, Muslim, we have this massive discussion every time it comes up, and it comes up in the media every 5 minutes. In fact, the most discussed topic in the world today is Muslim. Isn't it, really? I mean, is it just me that I put on Radio 4 every morning, right? In fact, it goes on. I don't put it on because it's automatic now. And, every single morning, a Muslim radical extremist in this country, a Muslim in that country, some Muslim in this country, some Islamic Islamist, extremist Islamist now, not an Islamic extremist, an Islamist extremist is mentioned. So we, without doubt, have no excuses for not talking about our faith as Muslims. And also, you not yet Muslims, inshallah Muslims, have no excuses for not wanting to ask questions. Right? Am I right? Yeah? Why on earth don't we talk to each other? It's a fundamental, right? It goes without saying that we should be engaging with each other and trying to sort of soften the blow of the middleman. Who is the middleman? Who's the middleman, man? The middleman, man. The middleman, man, down. Who is he? Who is the middleman? Who is it? Come on, guys. Who's the man who causes the trouble and the strife? Who is it? Come on, guys. At least have a guess. It's the media. Come on, guys. It's the BBC. It's the British Broadcasting Company, innit? They're the problem. They come to me and they say, what do you think about people going to Syria to fight? They don't say it in that accent, but they say, what do you think about, you know? And I say, well, look, I haven't got a bloody clue, so go away. That's what I tell them. I say, just get out of here. Because I know you don't care about my brothers and sisters out there and what they think about Islam. And you certainly don't care about all the vast number of 95%ers of Middle Englanders here who you are going to send the wrong messages to. So don't come to me. Out of here. I was quite rude to one of them the other day. Wasn't that funny? Well, you see, essentially, that is our problem. For 22 years, I've been a Muslim in this country, and I've seen a decline in the communication between Muslims and not Muslims. And 90% of the problem comes from our British media. See? BBC, Channel 4, slightly less aggressive, you know. The tabloid journalists, checkbook journalism, gotta sell lots of... I mean, my mother wouldn't talk to me for 10 years because of the Daily Mail. I hate that bloody publication. She wouldn't talk to me for 10 years. You know. It's important, it's imperative. We understand the challenges of why we're in this mess today. And then behind, of course, the Daily Mail and the medias, and there's another middleman that's kind of sort of slightly on the fringes called the neoconservative mindset. The Henry Jackson Society. The very, very, very conservative, right-wing, neo-fascist think tanks that put in the boot every now and again and then send a message to the Daily Mail saying, this is what this speaker said. So he gets a YouTube clip from us and he posts it, you know, with all this hate preaching. That's what I call it. They are actually the hate preachers. Generally speaking, Muslims have been here for 120 years. The first mosque was opened in 1889 by a man called Henry William Abdullah William, an English man. Yes, in Liverpool. Yes. So we Muslims have been here for quite some time. But it's only in the last 20 years, definitely in the last 5 years, that there's been escalation of this, what they call Huntington called the, you know, the clash of civilizations. You ain't never going to get on, you Muslims and you non-Muslims, yeah? I disagree. Because if we just talk to each other, instead of listening to the third man, the middle man, we can put a lot of this animosity and this difficulty to bed. That's if they don't ban us first. Okay. That's on the cards now. It's happening. We have prevent officers coming to visit every university, spreading lies, spreading corruption and evil statements. So this is the backdrop. I just wanted to give you some of the backdrop to tell you thank you very much for Southampton University, the authorities. Thank you very much for everybody coming, because you're a brave group of people. Because you kind of said, cut out the middleman, bro. We go and talk to the man himself. And I'll talk to you, you talk to me. That is the best possible scenario. If after this talk, you're convinced that the middleman is right, but at least you've done the honourable thing, right? Come to listen to me and talk to me, ask me questions, and see if I am a megalomaniac, lunatic, extremist. I've got no bombs in my back, I promise. I don't, you know what? Until relatively recently, I didn't even like eating meat. So I couldn't kill even an animal, let alone a human being. And I actually was a vegan at one point. I mean, how am I going to hurt anyone? Apart from myself, of course, because you get stomach problems when you're a vegan, right? Is any vegan in the room? Any vegans? Right, okay, can talk about them. No, I'm joking. So, essentially, that's the backdrop. And it's good that we talk openly about these things. Do you agree? Does anyone disagree? Right? We're going to hide it and pretend it's not happening. Good. Excellent. On the same page. So how do we define what is the purpose of life? Is life just a game? Well, throughout history, people have been talking ad infinitum, thinking about and prodding and questioning themselves, the people around them, their peers, their teachers, they're the teachers, they're asking their pupils, so on and so forth. And they traveled in the world, When I first started thinking about the purpose of life, the first thing I did was leave England. Because I was just too comfortable with the people. And we'd spend a lot of time engaging in frivolity, playing, sports, down the pub, bruv. Get drunk. Because, it's to fill the void. So the reason why I used to go down there with my friends is because they were doing it. And it seemed like a good thing at the time. But after a while, repetitive sort of behaviors stopped making any sense whatsoever. So I had to question and I had to challenge. I'd sit there with a Coke in my hand. They were drinking Stella Artois or cider or whatever it is. It's known by every other name apart from alcohol now anyway. It's one of the signs. So, and then they would say, Tim, is there something wrong with you? Why are you not drinking with us tonight? I say, look, I just don't feel like drinking tonight. Do I have to? Do I just follow you because you're doing it? No. Essentially, people that have engaged in this question, the perennial, the question of life, have invariably come to the conclusion that there is a creator of some sort. And most people can be defined as being not atheists until recent days, very recent, for the last 10 years or so. But they will confirm themselves as either being a nominal Christian in this country, or they would consider themselves to be agnostic, meaning that they feel that there is my mother's like this, yeah? I know something created the world, Tim. You can imagine this is what I say to her every day when I meet her. Mom, Have you thought about the problems of life and who created us? And she said, look, I know, but I just don't want to talk about it right now, man. I've got too much on my mind. I've got to do the cooking. I mean, I've got to take the dog for a walk, man. You know, I said, is the dog important or is the God important? Mom, come on. Let's be real. Let's just talk about things on a level, bruv, innit? You know what I mean? She's actually from Surrey, so she doesn't speak like that. But you know, that's the sort of street language they have in London, right? It's on a level, bruv, innit? That mean? Got to get real talks though, innit? Because everyone is talking about it, and everyone is trying to avoid it. So our peer pressure says, oh no, don't even go there. I was talking to a guy just earlier on. Politics, religion, don't discuss them. Right, politics now is acceptable, but religion for sure, don't discuss it. And then, however, as conscious human beings, we know at some stage in our lives, we have to address the question very seriously. And just because we're born as Muslims or Christians, or ad infinitum different religious people, doesn't mean to say that we should not ask that question and seek proof. Because blind faith just doesn't work, does it? You know? It's like me saying, I believe the universe came into existence on its own. But I haven't even read those so-called physicists that postulate that theory. Right? So I'm blind following them. Did you actually ask a lot of these people that are so-called atheists? They actually haven't read any of the literature which postulates this theory. They haven't. They haven't read Richard Dawkins and all these guys. Yeah? So what are they doing? They're blind following, just like many religious people do. So it's important that we reopen this discussion and have a kind of really open, wonderful, engagement with this topic, so that we can all benefit. Because we're in this wide-bodied jet, aren't we? Actually, they probably have a jet about this big now, don't they? What is it? What's the latest jet they have? Huh? Did you design it? Yeah. The last university, one of them, he designed the wings for it or something. I said, okay, I'm going. They'll be after you. I'm not joking either. But we're in a wide body jet. We're sharing, the same vehicle. From the same family. And we all desire to know where we're going on a destination. And so you're in the, imagine you're there, and you are, right? What are you going to do? Are you not going to ask your fellow passenger, excuse me? You're just woken up from sleep, you see. So you just, excuse me? Where's this vehicle going? Can you shed some light on it? You've got to do that, haven't you? And if that person doesn't know, and then he doesn't tell you, that means he's extremely selfish. Right? In fact, it's evil, right? Because how can you not tell someone? If you really feel you have good reasons to believe that you know where that vehicle is going, and you don't tell them, and you don't even bother to discuss it, then go and take your dog for a walk. Really. Go down the pub. Get laced. Do it. Have some nice vodka chasers afterwards as well. They work. Burn the brandy. Do it. Just do it! Nike! Nike! The goddess of fertility, isn't it? The goddess of victory. Goddess of victory. Nike. Yeah? Just do it, man! That's the branding, isn't it? Now it depends which paradigm we are all living in as to whether we will answer that question or ask that question. Or whether we even be concerned about the guy saying, excuse me, I'm listening to my music, mate, do you mind? Not many people are like that, right? But there are some. So, when asking the question, when the replies that you tend to get are to eat, sleep, drink. That's the purpose of life. Ultimately, to achieve happiness, of course, is one of the kind of minimal objectives of life. One has to have that as an objective, as part of one of the objectives. He's happy, man. Look at him. He was happy until he saw me anyway. So eat, sleep, drink, play, enjoy. Wow! Have fun! Or it could be to be a tasty snack for the worms. You know, because when you get buried, who eats you? The worms, right? So you're just worm food. Are you worm food? Could be. Maybe you were created for the worms. Maybe the worms, you know, they've got sort of, you know, they're anarchists. The worms are anarchists, man. They're just waiting for everyone to die. Yeah, there's another one. Yo! Is that it? Is that the purpose? Because if you think about it, if there's no creator, and there's no real purpose, you are just worm food. That's very sad. And it's a really foolish reason for having these wonderful array of different human beings. It's incredible. You know that every single human being has a different DNA. Every single leaf on every single tree has a slightly different differentiation in its DNA structure. Every single leaf is unique. You can't even count the leaves on one tree. You should think about it. That is mind-blowing, you know? It's heavy, man. You know, it's like back in the hippie days. Heavy. You can't remember that, can you? Because none of you are old enough. I was born in the 60s, man. Woo. Now I went through Sid Vicious and Nancy and all the punk rock. Yeah? I was a rebel. So look, you see, are you just a mistake? Did it just happen? Are you just the symptom of this massive cataclysmic explosion? The Big Bang. Are you here for a more prosaic, more meaningful reason? You see, one has to consider. And really, these are the questions that people ask each other, and these are the type of answers that they have. Are you here to serve a man? Are you here to serve your parents? Are you here to serve your mother, your family? Just to procreate, to bring up the next generation and then become worm food? Are you for that? Are you here to love as many people as possible? What are you here for? So, depends on which paradigm you're living in. Because, in the paradigm of reality, where we try to be honest, we try to be sincere with each other, we try to know and understand the purpose together, not to have an argument or a fight or a debate, because virtually never find out about the purpose of life by doing it that way, right? In fact, you find out how much you can hate a person, but you don't find out anything useful. So in that paradigm, and that's the paradigm I'm trying to create tonight, yeah? We can find out lots about each other and help each other in our shared journey. Now, the other paradigm is Disneyland. It's Disneyland, where you are indifferent, you're arrogant to one another, dismissive of each other's thinking, of each other's ideas, ideology, and you're on the road with no destination and you're not really bothered about finding out what the destination is. You just want to get on with your life and go through the motions. So these are the two paradigms. If one considers the concept of happiness in this world, and then you really think not very deeply about it, you don't need to think very deeply about it. First of all, is it possible to have happiness in this world today? And the second thing is it an objective thing? And is it tangible for everyone? Is what makes you happy, my friend, and what makes you happy, sister? Yeah? Is it the same thing? Right? And what is the condition of the world that we live in today? And does it help us to be happy? You see? So, for example, when you leave this university, you're paying what, £9,000 a year? You're not. You're fortunate. I know he is not. How much are you paying every year, brother? You don't? I'm asking the wrong people. Should have planted them earlier on. How about you, my brother? How much are you paying a year?
I'm a research student, so I don't pay tuition fees.
Oh, that's very good. I'm going. But the average rate. I mean, I've been asking this question in every university, and I get the same answer. It's £9,000, right? That's bad.
18, sir.
Huh?
18.
You're paying 18. But you're a foreign student?
Yeah.
Yeah. The foreign students, they pay about, what, 25, 30, 18? Something like that. Okay, so if you're in this university and you're in English, Gora Sab, like me, a white person like me, or a person who's from Middle England, you kind of get this bill and your mum has to pay the bill, right? Or your dad, right? And because you're obviously too young to pay it, unless you're, the owner of Facebook or whatever. So there, you've got this, the reality of this world that we have today. So the reality is that I can pretty much conclusively prove that you start to become a slave right from day one. So even this young boy is a slave. I can pretty much prove it. Because, you come out of the university with a debt of 30 to 40,000. I mean, a lot of people do, not everyone. Okay, if you're fortunate, you don't. And most of the people do. And if you're in America, you come out with a debt which is like quadruple that. Like I was talking to one student last night, and they're saying many of us don't ever pay the debt off. Okay, so we're actually, owned by the financial institution that actually helps us to get the money there, or the multinational corporation that allowed us to pay to become a research fellow or a student for 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is. So you come out with a debt. So you're basically like in an indentured labor program for this organization or for the government. And then if one looks at the condition of 60% of the population, because we're very fortunate, right? Does anyone think we're not fortunate? We're living in the UK, still fortunate, just about. Okay? We have access to healthcare, minimally costed, education system. It's getting more expensive, yeah? We're taking the American system, yeah? But generally speaking, we have things on tap, and we have too much. Yeah? Why? Why do we? Why? Why do we have so much? And yet 60% of the world don't have it. Why do we have too much? Why are half the people in America dying of obesity and half the people in Africa dying of starvation? Why? Because we don't understand our purpose. We're not living according to our purpose. It's the bottom line. We're in this mess because we haven't got the system that we should have had right from day one. We've made it up as we've gone along. We're making man-made laws, man-made rules, so on and so forth. Doesn't work for today, let's change it tomorrow. Let's change it again, let's change it again, until we get something that fits today, or it doesn't fit tomorrow, so change it again. So we end up with a world system that is incredibly unfair. So most of the people can never be happy. So it's not objective we're talking about here. It's not an objective, identifiable thing that you can have. Look, if a person is earning $1 a day or $2 a day, and they're working 12-hour shifts, and they hardly ever see their kids, and their kids are in the rubbish dump on a daily basis, yeah, and they have no access to education, they have no access to sanitation and healthcare, they're not going to be happy, right? But actually, the funny thing is that a lot of them are happier than you guys. It really is. When you travel to Africa, they're the ones who are smiling, But there's no objective thing called happiness. It's something which is very subjective, and it's about where you are and what country you live and so on and so forth. So here we go. Apart from that, of course, we have major conflict zones all around the world. So we have Syria, 150,000 people dead, and a lot more is going to die if we don't try and sort it out. But unfortunately, the international community has decided not to go in because of something to do with oil or something to do with geopolitics. Or maybe they just run out of money because the Americans have got a $16.3 trillion bill debt. Of course, we've got now Russia. Russia looming, headlights are looming in the horizon, waiting to frighten us all on the doorstep of Europe. And of course, we've got the continued mess in Iraq. 5 million orphans. 5 million orphans, according to Help the Needy charity. So, all this leads me to believe, coupled with the fact that every 40 seconds someone takes their life in this world. Every 40 seconds, yeah? It leads me to believe that we seem to be living according to a different set of criteria to the one that we came into this world with. As human beings, collectively, we know that it ain't happening. We know it. Capitalism is a miserable failure right now. It might not be for you, because, as like I said, man, I'm at Southampton University, I'm doing okay, bro, you know what I mean? Have a curry every night, got my girlfriend, go down the pub, watch the football, read a book every night, whatever. I've got electricity on tap, I've got gas, I've got water, hot and cold, I've got a nice shower, got my nice car outside, I just 2 up, 2 down, it's all cool, bruv. But it ain't like that for most people. And if you travel in the world, and you see the condition of the people, you start to realize what you have got. So, then you look at the top people in the world. You look at the Premiership football players, for example, or the pop. They call them pop musicians. They don't call them that anymore, do they? What do they call them now? Huh? Stars. Yeah? Stars. From Hollywood. Hollywood's the Pakistani equivalent. So, and Bollywood, of course, is the Indian equivalent. And now there's another one called Nollywood. It's not Nigeria. Yeah, that's right. And then, so all of these different, collectively, these media systems produce this conveyor belt of young, beautiful, accessible, sexy children, right? Individuals, glorified, airbrushed, And if you look beyond the facade of all of these people, Amy Whitehouse, for example, Did she have a difficult life? You see, I mean, she had millions of fans adulating over her, saying they loved her. She had money, she had anything she wanted in the world, really, didn't she? At least externally, that's the case. But how did she took her life? And she had a miserable time. And look at Michael Jackson. I mean, this guy, Michael Jackson, right? He had a beautiful face when he was born. You remember his face when he was born? Has anyone ever seen a picture? I should show you a picture of his face. Beautiful. And then bit by bit, because of his psychosis, he went and cut it up and reassembled it, and it was horrific. To the extent that some days when he was living in the Middle East, I think he was living in Bahrain at the time. Bahrain, he was Dubai, yes, he would have been Dubai, it wasn't Bahrain, of course. He would have been in trouble there. So, and he was living in Dubai, and then I think he was in Emirates somewhere, in Sharjah or something, and he went into a toilet wearing a niqab. So he went into because he didn't know which toilet to go into, because, men, no, women, yes, but no. So he walks in, and he takes this thing off, and there's women around. Ah! This is Michael Jackson. Incredible. Probably the most loved person when he was alive, I would say. Probably more than anyone, right? Mega star, right? But no happiness. No happiness whatsoever. You see? So, look at the football players, They have a very difficult lifestyle. They have to they have to work for 90 minutes. They struggle around the pitch with all these people shouting their names, and then they kick the goal. Sometimes they score a goal and they get a bonus for it, and 30,000, 40,000 pounds, and they get 100,000, 200,000 pounds a week. Some only on 30,000. What a miserable existence, And then they go home in their Ferrari. Ow, that's painful, because it's very expensive to pay for the Ferrari, isn't it? Well, not if you're a football player like that. But then you go and he opens up the doors to his wonderful mansion. Difficult life. And then the supermodel opens the door, of course. But he has one every week as well, because he can do what he likes, right? They're after him. It's a very difficult life, isn't it? You'd think, therefore, they'll be the happiest people in the world, wouldn't they? Wouldn't you, really? But there's a whole catalogue of Premiership players now consulting the latest fad of football psychosis quacks. You see? So if one looks at the world, there seems to be a problem. Even the weather patterns, right? We haven't had a winter, right? Even the weather patterns they are crying out. There's something wrong. We haven't had a winter. In fact, I think this morning and 2 days ago was the first time I saw a frost the whole year. Correct me. I don't know about Southampton. Maybe they've stolen the winter at Southampton. Is it been cold? It been cold? No. 10 degrees, 7 degrees, right? I have been alive for 49 years, and I kind of very rarely seen a winter like this. And then, of course, you've got these sinkholes appearing, even in England. You know what these sinkholes are? These massive craters just start appearing in the middle of the, because something to do with, and correct me, if there's any geologists around, they can probably explain the whole thing, but, my understanding of the limited knowledge I have of it is that acid rain causes the bedrock underneath the Earth's crust to erode, and then suddenly, massive crater appears. So this has been going on now, and since it's been raining rather a lot, there's been a number of them appearing, about 3 in the UK, and lots in America, and loads in China. And of course, the frequency of different natural disasters is in the increase, and so on and so forth. So, generally speaking, as our human condition is pre-framed by the stuff that's going on around us, and we need to consider ourselves in terms of that. Really. So before we start to consider, the common sense approach to what we're doing here in this planet, let it make sense. Is everything okay? And I'd say absolutely not. Because if the human condition, as the internal human condition, speaks to you, everyone says, for example, if I say to you, Surat, I'm just going to kill this 5-year-old. All of you collectively will say, that is evil. You can't kill that 5-year-old. So, like the world is saying and expressing to us today, our internal operating system, the actual operating system is telling us there's something seriously wrong. And there's a relationship between the number of people that are very unhappy, according to some surveys that I've been reading now, and the number of people that kill themselves and the religiosity of that community or that country. For example, the top sort of place where you're more likely to take your own life is Belarus, right? Belarus, followed shortly by, let's have a look here, Slovenia, Kazakhstan, South Korea, Latvia, all of the countries that said there's absolutely no God. There's absolutely no God, and we do not need God. The old communist bloc country. And then you'll find that countries like ours are on the increase. Only 11 every 1,000. And as compared to Belarus, which is 36.8 per 1,000. Yeah? So, when there's a lack of spiritual insights, a person is much more likely to take their life. And then, if one looks at the crime statistics for America, America is number 1 in the world. UK is number 2. Germany is number 3. France is number 4. Russia number 5. Japan, South Africa. She thinks South Africa was right up there, but of course they might have problems with their reporting system right now. Reporting of crime. Canada, Italy, and India. So one can see that there's a correlation of indications that say that if you're less religious, you're more likely to have crime, you're more likely to have suicides, okay? And then, I just want to go through about your own condition. With your own condition, right, can you definitively you can say that you chose to be born? Did anyone choose to be born? Did anyone choose to be born? Did you sign the contract before you were born? Did you sign any papers? Did you agree to come here? Did you choose the color of your eyes? No, right? Did you choose your brothers and sisters? No. Did you choose your mother and father? No. Did you choose your social, economic circumstances? No. Did you choose anything about your circumstances? I'm talking about as an infant when you were born. Absolutely not. Did you choose your DNA? Absolutely not. Your biology? No, not. So the reality of our situation today, good one, is that we are fundamentally, almost absolutely, 100% slaves to the iPhone. Turn it off. Oh dear. It's all right. It's only the home office. Right. So I meant the real home office, not the home office. Yeah. So Our condition is that we seem to have been not chosen any of our conditions, but that ultimately we've been sold into slavery. We've just been sold into this slave contract. That's about it. And we don't ask each other why we're here. What's the purpose? Talk to each other, man. It's common sense. We have to talk to each other. We have to start saying, look, to stop dismissing what I say, and start listening now. Okay, we got 2 ears and 1 tongue for a reason, right? Double listen and talk less. Yeah? So, for example, in terms of the physical world we have around us, if I say to you, you're going to cross the road without looking left and right, what's wrong with that? It's all right, isn't it? You might get across, isn't it? You might just be able to sort of jump over a car and, do like Batman or Superman. You've been watching Hollywood, you can do it. Right? Spider-Man, maybe you're going to spin a few webs and get across. Why wouldn't you cross the road without looking left and right? Would you do that? None of you, right? Why? Because it's painful when you get hit or you're going to die, right? Simple as that. So the same logic and the same common sense solutions that we have for crossing the road, we need to apply to the universe and human existence. If we don't do that, we're not being fair with ourselves. So, using logic, using intelligent reasoning, using all of our intelligence and all of our faculties together as a community, as the human race, we have to observe the things around us and come to certain conclusions which make absolute sense. So the universe has a game plan. The universe has a design. The universe, we haven't even seen. How much of the universe do we know about? How much of the universe do we know about? Come on, you big scientists, put your hand up and tell me. How much of the universe do we know about? How much of the universes do we know about? How much of the cosmos do we know about? Huh? Because we've been looking for a long time, right? How much? According to the scientist fraternity, they say around about 5%. And even that we only know in a very sketchy manner. Right? And we're not talking, even there are some oceans that we haven't seen. We haven't been to the bottom of the oceans yet. So we don't even know what's in the Earth's core. We surmise, we have theories. You can't drill down there. We don't know much about our own world. And yet we're trying to fly to the moon every 5 minutes. Because we're trying to find out why we're here. So, turn it off. Sorry, guys. Let me turn it off. They won't disturb us. So, the universe has an intelligence thing about it. It's designed beautifully, and it's vast. The nearest star is what? 4 light years away. Yeah? Nearest star. So light traveling at the speed of light for 4 years gets your eye from that star, right? 4 years. How fast does light travel? In terms of how long does it take for light to reach from there to there? Where are the scientists, man? I mean, what do you study at this university? Where's the physicists? Come on!
I think it's 3 times 10 to the 9 meters.
But so work it out. How long is it? You couldn't even calculate it because it's too small, the distance, right? Okay, so this is it. That is the nearest star, and then there are stars which are hundreds of millions of light years away. And we're not even, so the vastness you can't even explain. You can't even put your head round it. Am I right? It's the universe that we're part of. And then we say, It just came out of nothing. A cosmic explosion. The Big Bang Theory. It just happens for nothing. A cloud of gas is formed on its own. And then there's this massive explosion, and everything just went into place in the right way, the right degrees, the right distances, the right thickness, the right atmosphere. The ozone layer formed itself miraculously. The sun was exactly the distance away from the moon and the earth, so we'd all float in our own orbits. We'd have atmosphere in the earth, created by these trees producing oxygen. Everything just works so perfectly, but it happened because of a cosmic explosion. What's the probability of that ever happening? You see? Because, for example, if I'm walking in the earth, somewhere in the desert, and I find this mobile phone in the desert. Why do I find it in the desert? Because it's made of plastic. It's made of glass, so it's made of sand and oil, right? And a few rocks have been thrown in, maybe precious metals, right? And then I find it, and then I pick it up and I say, wow, that's amazing. It must have created itself over 1 billion years, because what happened was the oil bubbled up from the surface of the sand. And, but oil does that, right, from time to time. So don't laugh, And then it solidified, so it kind of made the plastic casing. Oh, that's fantastic, that's possible. And of course, the camel came and trod on it a few times. As camels do, they tread on mobile phones to make them. And then, the rain came down. And it sort of mixed with the oil. And it formed, this glass was extremely hot, because in the desert it's very hot. And then it formed this screen of glass, and the camel sort of sniffed it and sort of, licked it or something, and then caused an indentation there. And then suddenly there was an electrical storm, and it smashed into the phone and caused the electric shock going all the way through, and these circuits started creating itself. And then this microchip just flipped up and just landed in the phone. And then I picked it up and I said, "Hi, Mum. I just found this mobile phone that created itself over 1 billion years. I just thought I'd let you know I found it. Thanks, Mum." Tim, there's a good doctor around the corner. Right? Would anyone believe that story? Is it plausible? Is it feasible? Is it real? Are you living in the paradigm of Disneyland, or are you living in the paradigm of reality, of human consciousness, of intelligence, of common sense? I'm not an academic, and neither do I want to be one, by the way. But I think the problem is academia, because I think academia has made people think. As I'm reading a book by this chap, you might know this one. Do you know this chap? Yes? Mr. Grayling. So, he says now, we've reached this panacea of science and education. We no longer need religion. We do not need gods. We are now our own gods. And he goes through a whole load of things about, the problem of evil, that religion always causes conflicts, because of course, look at the world around us today. Yes, in the last 200 years, all the conflicts are to do with religion, aren't they? First World War, religion. Second World War, religion, is it? Was Hitler a fundamentalist Christian, was he? I mean, yes, of course, Vietnam. Vietnam, of course, was a religious war, wasn't it? Afghanistan, lots to do with religion, wasn't it? Oh, Iraq, yes, religious war. Yeah, right. Yeah, the Boer War. Oh, yes, religious, wasn't it? No. Every single world conflict that you can think about, certainly in the last 300-400 years, none of them are religion. This is his argument. And in academics, we should know better. Really, we need to debate this guy. But how many of you are even thinking like that? So I just said don't debate them, but these ones you need to debate, right? Right? Because there's certain people you have to debate. Actually, just read this book, all of you. Okay? Try to get it from the library, don't buy it. You don't want to give him any money for it. I don't want him to get royalties. And I made the mistake myself last night. I just suddenly realized, what have I done? I read the introduction, I thought, oh no! Let me get a refund. So look, the universe. The universe, according to us, for example, according to something else which I forgot to tell you, Dr. Justin Barrett, a senior researcher at the University of Oxford, he did a lot of research, and he came to the conclusion that when he was looking at children, and he was asking children about the purpose, he was trying to define the purpose, right? And he says that young children have faith even when they are not being taught about it by their family or at school. See, they have faith. And he came to the conclusion, him and many other anthropologists and so on and so forth, academics, that if you were to place a group of children on a desert island with no connection with the outside world, they would come to believe in God. What does Islam say? That every person is born in a state of natural disposition to knowing their Creator. And tell their parents, change the scenario. It's alright, don't worry. Child, it's natural. It's good, man. Muslim, look. Muslim child. How are you? You okay? Yeah, I don't blame you. Go to your mum. So, if a tree was, I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen The Hobbit? What was the one before The Hobbit? You know The Hobbit's about the Muslims, right? They're the Muslims, aren't they? They get trapped and they've got long beards and, they're the Muslims, right? The first thing I saw, when I saw The Hobbit, I thought, wow, that's us! Sad guys. And so, if the trees in the last film, they got up, the trees, and started walking around. Was it the second movie, I think it was, anyway. Giving it all away, I don't really watch them too attentively. But anyway, so the trees got up, like they did in that movie, because that made me think. And then suddenly, they all started rebelling against the humans. Yeah? And they get up, and they start saying, listen, bruv, I've had enough of those humans, and we're not going to create any more oxygen. And, furthermore, we're not going to create any more fruit. And they cannot have shade from us anymore. The world will be a bit of a mess, wouldn't it? So when a tree doesn't live according to its purpose, there's anarchy. When a human doesn't live according to their purpose, there's even more anarchy. There's dreadful anarchy in the world. And we're living in this lie. We say, oh, we're all going to university to sort out the problems. The reality is capitalism, which is the problem. Capitalism. Because capitalism works on the basis of boom and slump economies and the fact that one small, tiny percentage of people in every country has to control the wealth and own the means of production. I sound like a socialist now. And the rest of us are just slaves. We're just slaves. So, without purpose, because everything in the world, in the created world, has a purpose, okay? Everything in the created world has a purpose. There's nothing that does not have some form of purpose, okay? Like the trees, they have a purpose. The sun, it has a purpose. The sun stops being the sun tomorrow, we will die. If the moon alters its position slightly, because it's a bit sick of standing there, or sitting there, or floating around in its orbit there, then suddenly the whole thing will collapse. So, everything has a purpose in this world, so a human has to have a purpose de facto. If the human doesn't have a purpose, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And if we live without accountability, or we make it up as we go along, we end up with a chaotic situation, and this is the problem that we have today. We have accountability going out of the window. The reward and the punishment doesn't fit. The punishment doesn't fit the crime, and we end up with major, major problems in the world. So the universe, how did it get here? The universe got here from a cosmic explosion, right? But who created, because that's majority of scientists and philosophers now say that the universe had a distinct beginning. If it had a beginning, it had a cause. It has to have been an uncaused cause. It could not have been a caused cause or another caused cause, because that is more creation. It has to have been something outside that creative process for it to have happened, right? So the universe had a beginning, and it is a form, this entity, this power. And the power of this entity, it indicates, because of the vastness which we've been talking about, that it was highly intelligent, the most intelligent, totally unique, because it couldn't have shared that mantle with others, it would be fighting them, and it would be entirely and absolutely known to every single person in this room who that God is. The operating system tells you. Just know. In fact, the term, and I'm going to use a term, yeah, time, yeah, the term kuffar, yeah, you've heard this term, yeah? It comes from the kafara root to mean a person who sows the seed. He's the farmer. So what he does, he digs the hole, and he puts the seed inside the hole, and he covers it up, and he walks away, and then he forgets where he puts it. So if he doesn't actually, mark where he put it, he can't remember where he put it. So the term kafara is to cover that seed. All we need to do is uncover the seed. And we'll see, we'll find it. So then, if there's a universe, and if the universe was created, and if that universe was created by an all-powerful creator, who has to be totally and utterly unique, and he can't share the same characteristics of the creation, because the creation die, they're born, they die, they eat, they sleep, they're weak, they're an absolute need. They are slaves, they're born into slavery, right? So therefore, there needs to be a book of instruction. There has to be some level of communication between that great, omnipotent, powerful creator and the creation. It has to be, because if it doesn't make sense that an all-powerful, all-intelligent creator, creator, the creator, would have left us with no instruction. That's not fair. That's not intelligent. So, the nature of this instruction book demands that there are people that are sent amongst us who are better than us, that they can show us the instruction book and teach us the instruction book. So you need prophets. You need a book. You need men to teach you, and some women as well. Like Mary, peace be upon her, known amongst the Muslims as the greatest woman that ever lived. Period. Yeah? So you need that book of instruction. And there are certain conditions to this book and to this man, or to these people. First of all, it would have to be preserved. The book would have to be preserved in the original language that it was presented, uniquely and clearly. It wouldn't have been you can't change it. It needs to be memorized. It needs to be preserved, and it needs to be memorized, and it needs to be a book telling you about everything you need to know about in your life. Marriage, trade, how to look after your kids, how to look after your wife, how does the wife look after the husband, so on and so forth, roles and responsibilities. What about, how do you inherit? What is the world all about? What's the purpose? So on and so forth. Every single element of operating the human condition needs to be in that book. Just like if you got this iPhone from the desert and you didn't have the manual, you'd have to spend years and years and years trying to work it out. If you've never seen one before, right? And you might be frightened of it for 2 years. You might just like be in awe of it. Might start worshipping it. What people do these days, right? Technology. So, for us to be sure about this book, we need to look at what they've said about the Quran. So I'm going to talk about the Quran a little bit, because I haven't got much time now. What time do we end?
With the question at 8.
8?
With the question.
Okay, I'm going to have to end now. That's a shame. Waffling on too much as usual. Right, so this book, according to the greatest, some of the greatest Orientalists, and Arabists, they say several attempts have been made to produce a work equal to it. As far as the elegant writing is concerned, none has yet succeeded. This is written by a British Orientalist in his book. He wrote in 1885, The Construction of the Bible and the Quran. You know, again, the greatest poet of the time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, his name was Walid ibn al-Mughayra. And he said, although he didn't accept Islam, because he was fighting the Muslims, he said about Muhammad and this book, he said, and what can I say? For I swear by Allah, there is none amongst you who knows poetry as well as I do. Nor can any compete with me in composition of rhetoric. Okay? Oral tradition. Not even in the poetry of the jinns, meaning the spirits. Yeah? And yet, I swear by Allah that Muhammad's speech, meaning in the Quran, does not bear any similarities to anything I know, and I swear by Allah, the speech that he says is very sweet, and adorned with beauty and charm. Yet the man was he was illiterate. He could not read, he could not write, and he wasn't a poet, and he wasn't versed in the traditions of prose and poetry and rhetoric, and he was not an oral poet either. And yet he came up with a book 1400 years ago as an illiterate, as a person who could not read or write in the desert, and he never left the desert, that surpasses all other books and is memorized more in the world today than any other book, and it is preserved in its original Arabic. You can find it in the British Museum, actually. You can find a copy in the British Museum. You can go to the Topkapi Museum in Turkey, you can find a copy. You take an Arab with you, take the brother over here from Saudi Arabia, take any Quran in the world, and he will read this one and you'll read that one, and you'll find there's absolutely no difference. And there's no other book like that. Okay? So this is the book. You see, the book has to have come from one of four people, or one of four entities. Number one, it has to come from an Arab, a non-Arab. Muhammad wrote it on his own, or it comes from God. So if it is the case that it came from an Arab, I've already shown you that an Arab could not have written it, because he's saying that time, the greatest poet, saying that did not come from Muhammad. There's no way that that is the same as our language. It is a combination of sajja, mursal, maqama, and all of the different systems that they had to get, and it's all interwoven, and they've never seen that before. So the book is a linguistic miracle. We don't even need to talk about the signs or the science that some people say, science in the Quran, which I don't really agree with. But don't even need to talk about that. And the last thing that we need to think about is, how did a book 1400 years ago travel from Portugal to China in a period of 80 years and take over the Persian Empire, the Roman or the Byzantine Empire, and half of Christendom, all the way up. In fact, they got 300 kilometers away from Bari, Abdurrahman al-Khafiki. And then the Emir in Morocco called him back, said, yo, come and have a party. That's why they didn't actually come up to in England. That's why we now have, this is why it isn't actually a former Muslim state, part of the Ottoman Empire. Without any internet, no television, no technology beyond rudimentary things, no cars, no planes, nothing. No mass communication systems. The book got 80 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad from there to there, in most of the civilized world, and it ran most of the civilized world. Now, there's only two possibilities about this book. Number one, either that book, you see, because in the verse called the cow, Baqarah, in the chapter Baqarah, verse 23 to 24, it says, if you are in doubt that this is from Allah, from God, bring a verse like it, bring a chapter like it, in fact. And then later on it becomes a verse like it. So it travels through, Heracles must have got this message, right? From one of the companions. And he calls all his, he consults with people. And he has Arabs amongst him. And they're reading this book and it's saying, there's the challenge, let's get rid of the Quran. All they have to do is get rid of it, just challenge it. But they could not. And the next verse says, but you cannot. It's an eternal challenge. The Quran is an eternally challenged book. It is not being challenged. And it can't be challenged. And furthermore, the book became the book for the majority of people in that area. But this is from a person who couldn't read or write. So one has to think about it and say, maybe that's my book. Because the Quran mentions, it says, this is a book of instruction, a furqan, a criterion between right and wrong for those who reflect, those who make tadabbur, those that make reflection on the world. This is your book. For everyone. Not Pakistanis, not Bengalis, Irish people like me too, yes? Right? English people like you. I believe, and if you're sincere about it, that at least everyone who isn't yet Muslim, or the people who are Muslim, should pick it up and read it and get a connection with it. Okay? So I rest my case, really. Just Bruce Lawrence, what did he say about the Quran? Bruce Lawrence said, as tangible signs, Quranic verse are expressive of an inexhaustible truth. They signify meaning layered with meaning, light upon light, miracle after miracle. In his book, The Quran, a biography, and he wasn't a Muslim. It's important that we express to each other with sincerity, because there's no point in us, if we're not going to be sincere, we're just going to have an argument, okay? But the bottom line is, this book is a very, very special book indeed. It's memorized by millions of some children. Somebody told me it was a 4-year-old. I haven't seen that, but I've seen a 5-year-old memorize the Quran. The whole book. And there's no other book in the history of mankind, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I always ask this question, that's ever been memorized. Well, there was one guy who told me, yeah, I memorized a storybook I read it to my son. I've read it so many times in the evening now, I've memorized it, yeah. But it's a very, very, and it doesn't talk about life, right? It doesn't solve man's problems. This book solves man's problems, and women's problems as well. Okay, so that's really all I've got to say, because I kind of gabbled on a bit too much. But if there's any people that want to ask some questions, or they want to make some points, I'd really be happy to go for it. Yo! One question over here, my friend.
You skimmed across the problem many times. You said the problem is capitalism, you said the problem is you said lots of things that I believe are caused by the problem, but you never touched a problem I would quite sincerely say is actually the problem itself. Pride in yourself rather than pride in God.
Yeah.
And you never touched. I would say if we all have fallen short of this, we all at some point in our life experience pride in ourselves and serving ourselves rather than God. What would you say is the great punishment for that? And when would you say you're serving God enough and not yourself enough to be acceptable? Where would you say the level is for you?
Okay, right. We can all come to an agreement from a discussion from our nafs, from ourselves. Yeah? And you and I will come to pretty much the same conclusions about life, right? And about the problems. And you said pride. So one of the things in the Quran and in some of the traditions of the Prophet, those are the hadiths, is very clearly that if a person has the pride to the weight of a mustard seed, he won't enter the kingdom of God. Clearly. But the thing is that we can do that, we can have that discussion in the absence of the scriptures. But before we do that, we have to work out what are the scriptures. Because scriptures have to be preserved. They can't just be arbitrarily conceived over a cup of tea that you and I can have. We can have a pretty damn good discussion, right? But we can't really conceive of the purpose and what is good and what is evil unless we have the original scriptures. So that's what I'm proposing to you, that if we can get hold of that, we can then check ourselves, our hard drive, our internal drive, with what we find in the scriptures. I think that's really the answer. I'll take yours first, because competition.
Thanks for your speech.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Thanks for having me. I think the philosophy of the world that prevails quite a lot at the moment is come, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die.
Yeah.
Something that Jesus quoted as saying in the Bible is that he says, I was sent by God so that they, mankind, might have life and have it to the full. And they refer to those two philosophies are quite contrasting. The quotations may sound similar, but the philosophies are very different.
Yeah.
What is the role, in your opinion, of whatever concept you want to label it as, pleasure, joy, fun in life?
Yeah. The Quran mentions that the only time you can truly witness and feel that ecstasy of fun, enjoyment, is because it mentions in the English rendition being that human hearts only find peace and tranquility in the remembrance of their Lord. You see? So, essentially, whereas we can have a pretty good damn time, and we can go and go and watch football together, we can chill out, we can play PlayStation or whatever it is, and we can walk to the top of a mountain, which is I prefer to do rather than playing on this stuff, yeah? We can just chill out and reflect on the wonders of this universe and look at the night sky and so on and so forth. That gives us pleasure, right? But the ultimate happiness can only be achieved when one is contemplating the one who put us here, right? And of course, what comes after that for the person who does that, who's found to do that in his life, because they really need it, right? It's like a drug. Once you get it, you feel like it's a drug, right? Inject, do it. Religion, right? What did religion mean, man? What does it actually mean? Religio. Cicero said it's to reconnect. I kind of like that definition. Reconnect. You need reconnecting. I need reconnecting. Everyone needs to reconnect. So, true happiness And true joy is in the remembrance of God. And there's only one God worthy of worship. The Christians have the same God. The Jews have the same God. There can't be two gods, right? It's a fallacy to even think about it. It's a logical fallacy. Because, I mean, you can't have more than one God. Because if there's more than one God, right? First of all, they'd be fighting each other. Secondly, okay, if there's a second God, there must be a third God. And then there will be an infinite number of creators. And therefore, there's no creation. It's actually called doesn't make any sense. So you end up with the scenario that there's one God, and we're all worshipping the same God in reality, but we have different interpretations and different understandings of how we got there, and it's only because of certain politicians, the middlemen. I started off talking about the middlemen. The middlemen are the ones who are fighting us. They're going to make you believe, and I'm telling you, I know that most of you, some of you believe this. You believe this guy, you know, he's a radical, right? He wants to kill gays. This is why they say about me, yeah? Kill gays, kill apostates, kill Christians. Why? Because we have been told that by the middleman. Reality is what's written in the Bible is written in the Quran. Reality, yeah? What's written in the Torah is written in the Bible, but it's kind of just being messed up by politician middlemen. You understand? So I've gone a bit too far answering your question. I hope that answered your question. Is there any other questions? Yeah? 1 second, my brother.
You talked about...
I'm coming back.
You said you were 49.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
Irish.
Don't remind me, please.
Okay. So you're 49. You're
Yeah.
Irish. And so when did you find Islam, and how did you come to that point? Are you Catholic or?
I was
what's your
originally
background?
nominally Catholic. I don't think, because the first time I found out I was a Catholic was when my mum was filling in a form, yeah? At the age of 15. RC. I said, what's that, Mum? She said to me, no, that you're a Roman Catholic, you know. So, and I said, well, what does it mean? It's really interesting. That's when I started questioning. I actually joined the choir at the age of 15, yeah? Anyway, it was about a period. I left home when I was 15 and 3/4, just like Adrian Mole, was it? 15 and 3/4? Isn't it Adrian Mole?
Harry Potter.
Huh? Not Harry Potter, no. Come on, bro. You guys are too young. Flipping heck. Look, no, so, I mean, I went on a 11-year journey to find the truth. I actually went to university to find the purpose of life. Because I was told that 5% of the population, the top 5%, the thinkers, the intellectuals, they'll help you to know the purpose of life. So I found the purpose of life in the university.
But how did you find? I mean, when did you know you had a big question mark? What did you question?
Well, I had this
What
girlfriend,
did you
right?
question?
I'll tell you the truth,
Okay.
right? I had this girlfriend. That was a long time ago, as you can see. And she, one day, you know, because the questions were endless, right? I mean, I was looking at, and I did this last time I came here, I think, the purpose of what, you know, my journey to Islam. But I found this this universe and the cosmos and everything, and I was literally staring at it all the time, every night, and crying because I was frightened, and there wasn't any book or any philosophy that seemed to explain it, encapsulate it in a simple message. So anyway, I was at university, and then I had this girlfriend, and then there was a skate over that bit a bit. Otherwise I get in trouble. Right, wife. And she doesn't like me mentioning it, by the way. You can imagine. And one day, she said to me, you know, don't come here tomorrow. I said, hold on a minute. Is that what they do in Hollywood? You know, I mean, is that what they do? They suddenly just wake up and say, get out of here. I love you. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So I said to her, you know what? That is really mean. Why are you doing this? She said, it's got something to do with my religion. I said, religion? I said, you know what? And I was really angry. I said, either your religion is wrong or you are wrong. It's blatant. I mean, it's just simple. 1 + 1 = 3. No. Yeah. So, the morning,
What was her religion?
I knocked on the Islamic Society.
So she wasn't Muslim?
She was Muslim.
Muslim, okay.
So I knocked on the Islamic Society door, and this brother with a khutra from Iraq, long beard, looking very stern and prim and proper. I said to him, excuse me, I've got a problem with my girlfriend. And he said, I need your help. He said, you do need my help, and you need to get rid of her because she's not good for you, and you're not good for her. I said, what? You as well? I mean, I've just had it from her. And then you're telling me, what is going on with this religion of yours? What is this religion of yours? So, by the way, I've been living with Muslims, and no one ever explained Islam to me, right? And you have to put it into context. So then I asked this guy, and how can I? He gave me this pile of books and said, read these. I was reading about wudu, reading about the history of Islam. I was reading about the Quran, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I was reading about fiqh of marriage. I was everything. For 2 weeks, I just read. I went back to the girl. I knocked on the door. I said, I have to apologize to you. I said, your religion is true. You are wrong. You misleading me. You left me up the garden path. And then you left me without a key to get in the door. So that was the month of Ramadan. Because the month of Ramadan is when the Quran was revealed to mankind. And Allah says in the Quran, if you seek a path to me, you will find me. Guaranteed. If you seek a sincere path to me, you will find me. So, a couple of days later, I fasted, my first fast in Ramadan, and it was like someone removed the blindfold. So they took the blindfold off, and I had no option. I just had to accept the message. So, reality is it's a lot more and a lot more messy than that. But that's basically how I stumbled in through the back door, But if there's Muslims around and they're not explaining the faith in a really nice way, because you see the Quran was revealed in 23 years, right? 23 years, right? So it gives you a lot of time to actually accept, because a lot of the companions were drinking alcohol. Some of them were having relations outside marriage. Right? Some of them went to the battlefields drunk. Because the Quran was piecemeal being revealed. Now we don't even study the Quran. So we can't speak about our faith. Can we? That's our problem. And that's why we're sitting in England. Not much to say for ourselves. We don't live Islam, we don't know Islam, we don't read Islam, so we're not really Muslims, are we? In the sense that we're not real Muslims. And that is why we've got every Tom, Dick and Harry knocking on our door, trying to tell us how we should be Muslims. So we've got the Quilliam Foundation. Ed Hussein. Gone now, of course, he's a Majid Nawaz. Trying to tell us that it's a Stone Age religion and the Quran needs changing. Yeah? Because why? Because we don't know the Quran, right? Yeah? And they're, being paid by the British government. There's all these documents coming out now, showing that there's been this continual sort of discussion amongst British officials and the Quilliam Foundation. What for? Because they fear Islam, they fear Muslims. Because a bunch of unintelligent, to be honest, not knowledgeable Muslims go around doing stupid things, and then they say, this is the Muslims. De facto, you see? It's a tough world, eh? Anyway, got to get back to the Quran. The lady in the red.
You mentioned earlier not being able, having to preserve the word in the original language.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about that. That really struck me, and I thought, if God is spirit and He's transcendent and He's above language, then why would He be bound by something like that? Couldn't He communicate effectively in every language? If it's a message of salvation and how to gain eternal happiness or whatever the meaning of life is, why couldn't that be said in more than one language? I mean, I look at God created He created everything, and I see many diverse cultures, languages, creeds, nations, and I'm thinking, can't they all worship Him in their language? Can't that be pleasing to Him? Why would one language be favored above another? That sounds to me quite nationalistic and chauvinistic.
Mm. Are you Christian?
Yes,
So what language was the Bible revealed in?
more than one language and more than one nation.
Which religion, no, sorry. Which language did the gospel get revealed in?
Well, Jesus spoke in Aramaic, but the Gospels were written down for all people, of all
Yeah.
nations, in that was the language spoken most predominantly at that time.
I think you'll find that it was Aramaic, right? And and we're talking about the same era, the same, languages of God. Aramaic. But the Aramaic is lost. The Aramaic is lost, and you've got 27,000 Greek manuscripts which they could not decipher. See, so the thing is that, what we need to do effectively is be honest with ourselves. We need a preserved tablet, book, a preserved message that any people from any nations can get hold of, right? Now, the thing about the Quran is because it's memorized, and virtually every child goes to memorization classes, it's preserved in the sense it's preserved in the heart as well. So it's preserved in scriptures, but it's also preserved and it's learned and it's memorized and understood. Now, in the traditions, before we started taking the university system too seriously, every Muslim would have gone away into the desert and he would have memorized the Quran first, like they do in Mauritania. For example, if you go to Mauritania now, you'll find these kids, right, with 100,000 hadiths, the whole Quran in their heart. Because it's made as a book which is very easy to memorize. Even Mr. Irishman here has some memorization of the Quran, right? So I can pick up, I go around the world, yeah? But where are you from? Originally, I mean, you're British anyway. I mean, I shouldn't ask that question. I'll be in trouble for it, right? But, where are your parents from?
They're Nigerian.
Nigerian, yeah. So, I've been up in African places and I find these Muslims in the middle of these villages. The whole Quran in their heart. With a little bit of food on their plate, but they've got the Quran in their heart, yeah? Really, the most amazing place, really, for religion is Africa, right? Do you agree?
I don't know if I want to make it something that's
Yeah.
geographical.
Well, because, when people are poor, they're more likely to be religious. It's a general sort of statement of affairs. So, anyway, look. The thing that really, really shook me about the Quran was that the fact that it is preserved and has so much meaning. You see, preservation, according to the scholars, preservation means, you see, that Ibn Taymiyyah said the greatest of all miracles is the Quran, and then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon him be peace, which of course he came with. For it is the religion of Allah and His speech, and it is the proof of prophethood of Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. Its very revelation is one of the main proofs of this religion of God. So, the problem that I had when I was a Catholic was that I didn't have any definable evidence of a book which had been memorized at all or preserved. And when I went through some of the pages, to be absolutely frank, this is a personal thing. Now, I mean, please forgive me if I don't want to offend anyone, right? Is that it kind of just didn't make sense. There were lots of contradictions in it. So I couldn't, and I wanted to be Christian, really, because my people are Christians, right? And I love my people. And I was in the church choir, and I was trying my best to understand. But the reality is that most, I have to say, Europeans have left Christianity. Most of them have, because they can't get their head round something as complex as the Trinity. See, so we all need to talk, because the prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, we share that. 100%, right? We know he was a great man, right? Am I right? We share it, right?
Much more their great man.
Okay, let's assume that we do share something, that we say that he's a great prophet. Can you say that?
Much more their great prophet.
Okay, right. So is he God?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I don't want to get into this, but then if God dies, what happens? So that's the problem. If he did, because we believe, according to a book which is not changed, which is preserved and it's memorized, we believe that great man, with his great, beautiful Mary, his mother, were in fact people that were leading people to paradise, to the garden. They were. So we agree on that bit, right? Let's try and agree on those. You see, the Quran says, "O you who believe, come to common terms between us and them that there's only one God worthy of worship, and he doesn't have any sons. He doesn't have any daughters. He wasn't created. He won't die. He's the first and he's the last." If we can agree on that bit, we can talk about the nature of Jesus. Really. And we have to kind of do that. And really, and you know what? You and me have lots of enemies outside. Because we believe in God. So at least we should sit down with each other and be good friends with each other. Yeah? Go for it.
Okay.
Last question, because I think they're going to kick me out.
So much of your reasoning I definitely agree on, for the existence of God is definitely necessary. You keep on referring to the problem being the middleman, something else that's seems to be strange, something else. But that's, in my opinion, is avoiding the main problem. The main problem is, in my opinion, man's own sin, and man's own sin separating him from God. It's not this middleman leading me away. It's my own self-centeredness. It's my own sin that separates me from God and blood me from God. You can't dispel it and say that it's a middleman that's misleading me, like you quite often have to do tonight.
I do, don't I? Because, I'm trying to get a discussion going, that's why. And I've done it. So, I mean, I've achieved my objective, right? But, the real... Don't worry, the real thing is, brother, please. The real issue for me is that when Christians and Muslims, they were living together under Muslim Spain, for example, they didn't fight. But there was a middleman that came in and started to fight us. For years, for 800 years, under a minority Islamic rule, Spain existed, living according to the Quran for 800 years. Not all of Spain, of course. There was up the north. There was some Christian separatists. They would be called the extremists by now. And thank God that we don't go around saying that. But so when we were living together, slowly but surely, the Christians absorbed the Islamic understanding, and they became Muslims. Because they realized that when they were actually living with each other, it's the same God. Jesus, he was a man. He was a great man. But guess what? This is where we share something incredible. And that is that he's going to come back. And he's going to unify all the believers, and all the believers will pray behind him. So we're waiting for that time. So we need to stop arguing with each other and agreeing on what we can agree on. And trying to have a really decent Yeah, and you guys, by the way, you need to have a chat with these guys and this young man over there. What's your name, brother?
Michael.
Michael. Michael. Yes, and your name?
Alfred.
Alfred. And your name, sister? Miriam. My wife's name. My wife's name. You know. See what I mean? Christians, Muslims, same thing, bro. So we need to, please, let's just cut the middleman out and go straight for the goal. Straight from the heart. What leaves the heart goes to the heart. What leaves from the tongue goes to the ear, in one ear, out the other. So.
On behalf of Islamic Society, we would like to thank Brother Yusuf Chambers for the talk today.